So, truthfully, I am still struggling a lot with my health mentally. Uh you know, um I'm torn by like many motivations. I strongly want to get better and be functional, but one of the things is that actually getting professional help is obviously like a very slow, tedious process, especially if, finance is an issue. Um, at the time of recording this video, I still haven't called the Medicaid place. But that's something that had to be rescheduled, and so I'm not really going to talk about that on here, but I just wanted to make a video in the meantime to talk about what it's like to deal with this sort of in between state. That's where I'm at right now, where every single day I feel uh, I just I fight like incredibly you know there are like intense feelings and thoughts and worries. Mostly there's terrible anxiety. I feel like a spine chilling terror come over me at times, and I'm overwhelmed by ideas of inadequacy and unworthiness. I really, in particular, worried that well, I've got specific worries about death, but anyway. Um, I mean, I don't want to die without having like brought something worthwhile into this world. I hate the idea of dying a meaningless death and living a meaningless life, you know? That's something I'm really concerned with. So, because of those things, I'm extremely motivated to get better because I think that, pursuing help is better than giving in. I detest hopelessness, although, at times it does sort of um affect me. I do feel hopeless at times, but not like uh I don't know, it's not really a guarantee. Like what I mean is I feel it's hard to collect my thoughts right now. I in truth, I don't know that hopelessness is real because there have been so many times in the past where I've been in a crisis of some kind and I've still been able to get better. But, in this meantime, in this sort of like in between state, the worries often come from Googling my symptoms online or researching different mental conditions online because I know that I'm in a place where I'm kind of in trouble a lot of the time. I feel, I deal with a lot of terrible insomnia. I have like, hallucinations, minor ones but still noticeable. And I just feel a general like sense of chaos inside of my mind and my body. Like, I feel uncomfortable a lot. Um, so, when you're dealing with stuff like that, you're dealing with guilt, you're dealing with the lack of motivation and twitching and like, you know, strange behaviors, you want to find the answers online, and there's so many different resources that are going to tell you different things. If you're trying to get better and you don't have immediate access to like a medical professional who can guide you through the answers, or you only get a little bit of help occasionally, or if you're generally in a place where you are not yet being assisted, you know, in my case, I'm still extremely concerned with being helped immediately because every single second of the day I feel like I'm like gonna die, I'm exaggerating, but it's like it is extremely disruptive to my life. I feel I mean and I'm not fully sober either. Like I mean right now I'm pretty sober, but like in general I'm not doing well when it comes to that. I don't want to get into specifics, but I'm not making the best progress with my health because um, I I kind of self-medicate with I self-medicate with recreational substances, and they have unsafe and unpleasant effects on me at times, and yet I still do them. So I'm dealing with shit like that, and I go on the internet and try to figure out what's going on with me, and there's like the reality of mental health is that there are a lot of overlapping things. There are a lot of like overlapping um there are a lot of overlapping symptoms. So if your doctors haven't been clear about it, or they have, but you feel doubtful, because like that's something that's true for me, is that often I'll doubt my healthcare providers, and sometimes they're just disrespectful to me. So it's like I kind of think of it in this holistic way. Like if they treated me with disrespect, or if I detected anything that seemed off, that'll affect how I go about my treatment, because you know I care about, like, for example, when I had a doctor say that I have issues with my identity because of the fact that I told him I was trans, and went into my gender identity and stuff when I told a medical professional that, you know that was really tough, because I mean, on one hand, I do feel like a kind of there is a sort of instability within my sense of self, but like I don't know that that's really indicative of like a problem. I mean, it is difficult to deal with because at times I feel like uncomfortable wearing certain clothes or doing certain things or acting a certain way in a gendered sense. And then other times I feel comfortable doing XYZ, and that's just kind of the reality of having like a fluid gender experience, something that I didn't really think was true for me. Was true for me for a while, but I kind of like quietly suspected. But anyway, I mean, part of me worries that that might have something to do with being crazy, but like when I look at times where I was in the upward swing, when I was like medicated and having a level of functionality that was better than this, better than now, I still recognize that there was fluidity within my sense of self, and I was sometimes feeling more masculine and sometimes feeling more feminine, and presenting in a way that was in accordance with that. So it doesn't seem like something that's inherently unhealthy or dangerous, so I don't really think it is indicative of some kind of sickness. That's why I was so offended by that when my doctor, tried to make an argument like that. That guy just generally seemed untrustworthy, and you know, and that's affected how I go about my treatment now, because I feel like it's hard for me to trust the people that uh I, that I am at the mercy of. So yeah, and because of that, I'll go out of my way to like try and figure it out on my own and be kind of um like my own doctor, or think I know better, and I'll do all kinds of research on various conditions and think, this is me. No, that one is me. No, I have all of these, and then I'll just kind of snap out of it later and be like, there's no way you have all of them. But I do have overlapping symptoms that, because I mean that's kind of just how it is. Like with every single person, there's just unique things that drive us, and being extremely aware of it can be really very depressing as well, because if I just get stuck focusing on everything that makes my life hard, it doesn't make me happy. It doesn't actually solve the problem. I just get really fixated on it and don't really have anything that I can do. There are little things that I can do, like obviously there are certain things that make it easier in life, like getting a healthy amount of sleep, preferably at night, eating well, um, like, eating foods that are higher in nutrient and not too high in calories. Like there's a certain level of balance to be, you know, um to what's it called, pursue, you know? And uh socializing, getting some level of socialization is important. I that's another thing I wanted to talk about, is that I don't often feel like I should socialize. I feel really uncomfortable with interacting with people often. Now that I've gotten worse, I sort of um I find people threatening. I'm afraid that they'll get mad at me for something, because like I just walk around all the time feeling um like I am I am problems, you know? Like I don't really have anything else going on. And it was especially like it was it was especially affecting when that doctor acted like, my gender identity and my gender experience is, by the way, at the time I was identifying as a demi boy, because I realize now that mostly when I experience my gender, it's somewhere like in that space. Like if you think of gender as a kind of spectrum, and you'd understand that demi boy is like somewhere in between, like, you know, not, I mean, it depends on the individual, but essentially it's like you're kind of masculine, but then there's like something else as well. It's complicated, but I made a video about that already. So anyway, that's what I was identifying as at the time, like, and having that neutral thing about me treated as like, this is a sign that you're sick. That really affected my outlook and my sense of self when I was in a vulnerable state at the time. So it did more harm than good, for sure. Um, and that makes it hard for me to talk to people now, because, I mean, I worry that other people also think that. Like, they. I worry that people think being trans, or being just any kind of LGBTQ in general, is like a sign of mental illness, because lots of people talk about it like it is. In reality, like, a lot of queer people they do suffer from mental illness, but like so do cis people, so do straight people. Like, and I think that in general, just being marginalized in society, it just makes it more likely for you to uh have like fucking distress in your life, uh I don't know. And so that's, it's existential. The whole the things that I think about a lot, things that I'm concerned with, are very existential. Like, you know am I valid if I'm crazy? um I don't know. um and so if I feel like I don't trust my healthcare providers, then I go to like dangerous extremes to try to get what I want. Um, like just doing drugs that aren't really helpful for me. Um, or they'll make me feel okay for just like a few hours, and then there's a crash. Gotta worry about those crashes. There's crashes. Um, the internet will tell you all sorts of things. If you're experiencing this, it means, oh, that's a sign that you've got all this trauma, and you don't, you got all this repressed trauma. I know that. I mean, I'm aware of that. I just, I don't know. I do recognize that there are some things in my life that were traumatic that I didn't really think about before, or that I kind of just, pushed down, But uh, focusing on it so much and fixating on it without proper help is not the way, Um, I am not a professional. I do not understand these things better than someone who is qualified to actually diagnose and treat mental illness. And like I said, I don't actually know what I'm diagnosed with. Like in my experience, there have been doctors who have they I've been treated for ADHD, I've been treated for anxiety, I've been treated for depression, and I've been treated for schizoaffective symptoms, but I don't know if I'm diagnosed with that one, and I don't even know if I'm diagnosed with the others because I've dealt with clinics where they would tell me that, like, the diagnosis isn't really like their main priority, but they would still give me medicine for these things anyway, and it's just like I don't really know what's true and what's not about myself because they weren't really clear about what they've communicated. Um so, there's that. And another thing, like I was convinced for a little while that like pursuing certain diets would change my mental health for the better because I was feeling unsafe and uncertain about going back on antidepressants or antipsychotics. That's something that I want to do now. I do want to pursue that, even if, you know, I don't know. I mean, there's going to be negative side effects. That's the thing about those medications. Like, and one of the ones is weight gain. So I was worried about that. I have a bad relationship with body image and eating and stuff. So I thought, because I heard, there's this guy called Dr. Joseph. He's this doctor on YouTube, and I was recommended his videos because when you go on these these routes where you're trying to get help and you want to know how to help yourself, but you just don't know where to start, or you tried to start and it's just too slow, and you think that you can do it. Like you want to, I got all this motivation, and it's kind of positive. It's like good. I like it. On one hand, it's good that I'm trying and that I care about getting better and that I'm not giving up. But on the other hand, I'm listening to this guy, Dr. Joseph, and he's talking about, and it's Josef, and he's talking about going on the keto diet. That's for like, he recommends it for people with bipolar and schizophrenia, and his whole thing is that like his clinic is for taking people off of their meds. So he's got this clinic in California where he wants to, kind of help people get off their meds, and it's a conflicting thing. Like, he just makes statements about like, this is the percentage of the American population that's on pharmaceutical medications, and this is all of the dangerous side effects that can come about, or unwanted side effects that can come about from these medications. Um, you know, and here I am teaching you that there's a better way. You don't have to be on all of this shit. Instead, you can go on some, keto diet, this fad diet, and that will help you. So, I listened to him for a little bit because I thought surely this will help me as someone who feels like, I don't know, due to experiences and just like mistrust of others, like I think that I can help myself better than anybody else. So I'm going to listen to this guy. And it's like I don't really know what his credentials are, but it seems like a scam. I've there's I've done a little bit of research on seeing what other people think about Dr. Joseph, and it's kind of mixed. Like, he might be onto something, but in general, I don't know that the keto diet is actually going to help people with schizoaffective disorder, schizophrenia, bipolar, things like that. That, um, you know, yeah, I don't know if that's actually the answer because, like, let me just pull up somebody here so that it's not going to be on your screen. I just want to pull this up for my own personal reference. Schizo is this YouTuber. Um, Schizo, so SCHIZOKITZO. She has schizoaffective disorder, and she talked about how the keto diet has been recommended to her as an alternative to medication. And she says that, yeah, that doesn't seem like a legit solution. It was just like one random study where, like, I think she said something like only 30 people were even tested to see if they have a positive outcome or whatever, and like, you know, yeah, it was a really small sample size, and not everyone even got better after doing that diet. It didn't have that perfect, like, solution. It didn't have that, like, perfect outcome like people are acting like it is. It just seems like kind of a fad science trend, and it was appealing to me as someone who worries about weight gain on the medications and stuff. So that was something that I clung to for a little bit, thinking that that would fix me. Um, but yeah, that's the experience, Like, I don't actually know, but I have moments, I have bursts where I feel like I do know, and I feel like I have the answers, what's gonna fix me, and then I do a little bit more research, a little bit more time passes, and I realize that I'm wrong. Um, or I realized that, like, yeah, that would have been impractical. I wasn't truly planning on going on the keto diet. Like, I wasn't actually going for that, but I was thinking if I change my diet drastically, or at least like incrementally over time, that's gonna just solve my problems and I won't have to get back on medication. But now that time has passed, I realize, like, I don't have the motivation to make such a dramatic lifestyle change. I also don't believe that it will actually solve my issues that well, especially when, like, I'm also struggling with, you know, uh, self-medicating with substances. Um, and yeah, it's like, it's just not easy to get better on your own. Um, and getting better with help, it's it can be expensive, it can be time consuming, it can be stressful. So that's the reality of that. Um, I do also feel very guilty for how often I come on here to vent. Even though that's kind of what the channel is for. Like, this is my channel, I do what I want with it, but I feel bad every time I come on here and complain and talk about how shitty my life is, because I don't want to be like that. I don't want to be a downer. I want to be I don't know. I don't expect my life to be perfect, and I don't expect to just fix it for everybody else, but just generally, you know, I worry about how people see me and how they think of me and how I make people feel. I don't want you to come on here and feel hopeless, because that's a terrible feeling? And I don't believe that things are hopeless. That's the thing. If you think I feel that way, it's just not true. I mean, there are moments where I feel hopeless, but, like, I know there's a part of me that knows that things will be okay. And that part of me is never. I mean, there have been times where I've completely lost my grip on reality, and in those moments, there is no comfort. But those moments didn't last forever, you know? So as long as I have hope, I mean, I think that matters. That does matter. So, yeah, just don't give up, man. I mean, you know, people don't hate you as much as you probably think they do. That's something that I really baffles me. I don't really get why people don't act like they hate me. Like, I am literally doing a lot of unlikable things. I mean, the way I see it is, you know, I mean, it's moralized when you try to self-advocate or you try to look for answers on the internet, you know, you're seen as like a self-diagnoser, you're seen as an attention seeker and a liar and a faker. And I mean, there is harm in engaging in those behaviors for sure, but there's also just like the terror of like actually going through things that you don't fully understand, and then you know the internet just it does have a lot of information about mental health and mental illness that you know they can make you think that you've got all kinds of things that you may or may not have. In the past, I claimed that I had DID, which, you know, I believed because of experiences that I had as a kid that weren't really, like, critically, they were not as traumatic as someone who actually goes through DID would experience. Like, it is, as far as I know, something that is mostly caused by trauma. But, yeah, I don't have that level of trauma. I don't have those experiences in that level, in that capacity. I just straight up don't have all of the symptoms of that condition, but I do have like very freaky shit happen to my brain and my body and my perception sometimes. So, you know, it's just like getting it wrong is seem it's very high stakes seemingly, you know? Um in life, I mostly just want to have fun and not have a lot of heavy stuff weighing on me, but I am concerned with heavy things. Like my mind does latch to like worst case scenarios a lot because, you know, I'm anxious and I'm scared for my health and I'm scared for my future and stuff like that. Not hopeless, but, you know, very concerned. Um there's just so much waiting. So much waiting. Um so yeah. I still will make that happy video for for to celebrate the day I got my name changed. That was really nice. That was a great day for me, and I'm gonna put that one out soon. So, you know, I don't know what order I'm gonna put these out in. I might release that one first because I haven't recorded it yet, but you know, I might release that one before this one or vice versa. I don't really know because I still don't have the picture, but you know, the thumbnail that I want to use for it. That's something that I mentioned in my in the posts section of YouTube in the community tab thing. So, you know, if you don't know what I'm talking about, that's what I'm talking about. I've also been deleting videos lately that I didn't really like. So, if you watch a video and then I in that video I reference a different one and you try to find it and it's not there, that's cuz I deleted it. Cuz, you know, through this process of trying to figure out what's going on, I've realized like a lot of the content that I've made on here doesn't really fit my current standards of like, you know, how I want to represent myself, how I want to represent what's going on with me. I don't know. There are times where I just want to delete the whole channel, but I imagine what it would be like to just do that, and it would be, you know, it would make me feel like my life is kind of meaningless. That's something that I don't want. I don't want to feel like my life is meaningless. This is something that I want to do. I mostly enjoy it just because I get to socialize with other people. Um, Talking to you guys is really nice. You're always so nice to me. It's hard to understand. I genuinely find it hard to understand why people still talk to me. But it's nice that you do. And it's nice that you're always like, you know, um, very, very kind about it, you know? I'll see you around, okay? You can look forward to happy content from me. There's good times ahead. I believe it. Um, so I'll see you later, okay?